Howdy, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the gender transition that transgender people face, both socially and medically. For starters, there's a few things I should say as far as vocabulary comes when it comes to talk. So for starters, I thought I should start off talking about certain vocabulary that can be used towards trans people. Not necessarily maliciously, but it certainly is used, and it certainly is bad. So there are some terms that used to be okay, like back in the old days, that are maybe not the best these days. So what comes to mind when I'm talking about that is, for example, the terms transsexual and transgendered. These were used before it was kind of common knowledge. There are other terms that are used more modernly that aren't necessarily bad depending on the use, but can also be bad, again, depending on the use. The one that comes to mind here most for me is the term trans women, all run together with no spaces. The space is important because certain groups of people like to use this term to sort of separate trans women from the concept of womanhood that they have, which is sort of just, you were born and the doctor said it's a girl, and then they use it as a sort of way to make it a new word as opposed to just a descriptor. It's kind of like if you were talking about firemen, which is the profession in which people put out fires, and then you were like fireman, which is a man made of fire. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the actual transition. So there's realizing you're trans, and then it goes right into the coming out period. So the coming out period is kind of what most LGBT folks go through. It's when you tell your loved ones or your coworkers or your friends and family that you are trans. And there's a lot that goes on in this period because it's kind of like you have to introduce yourself to a stranger at a party, but instead of it being a stranger, it's every person you've ever met in your life, and you have to do it many times a year until you die. So that just about covers the social period of the transition. So now we're going to move on into the medical one. Now, the hormone treatment stage is a little bit more complicated than you might think. It's not like you just kind of like pop a pill and then a postman shows up and he's like, congratulations, you've won a uterus. It's more like you take a pill and then the pill makes you go through puberty again. Isn't that fun? So what happens on estrogen hormone therapy is you start off with either a pill or sort of like a cream that you apply to your skin, or there's also patches that you can put on and you can also inject it. So pills are the most easy to come by and affordable of the options. They're pretty safe, but they can cause problems if you're over 35 or if you are a smoker. The other option is the patches, so the patches are pretty safe and kind of affordable. The only problem with the patches is that they'll start to irritate the skin after a while. And then there's injectables. The injectables are, a lot of trans women prefer them, but the thing is, the side effects of injecting that much estrogen into your body are kind of unknown. Estrogen hormone therapy is often used in tandem with testosterone blockers, which sort of block testosterone or slow testosterone from developing inside your body. The reason why that's so important is that testosterone acts a lot stronger than estrogen in the body, so by blocking the testosterone, you're more effectively speeding across the transition process medically. So that's also why it's used. The effects of estrogen on the body vary. So skin will become drier and thinner, pores will become smaller and produce less oil, and you'll likely sweat less. Breasts will begin to develop, fat will be redistributed to the hips and thighs, and muscles in the arms and legs will become smoother looking. The eyes and face will begin to look more feminine, while bone structure will not change, because hey, it's Body and facial hair will grow at a slower rate, and balding will be stopped or slowed, which is really important, 'cause... Moving on. So, the surgery process is an important step in the transition process, but looking at surgery makes me want to throw up on the floor everywhere, so we might just skip that. Again, the website I was talking about earlier, it has more information on that if you're like super curious about it. I just don't want to look at pictures of active surgeries for that long, because it makes me scared. Makes me very scared. So now moving on to sort of like post-operation, post-hormone treatment. So voice therapy is when you work with your doctor and you work with like a voice pathologist to sort of feminize or masculinize the voice if you're a trans man. It can work pretty well. A lot of the times trans men don't really need it as much because their voice will sort of deepen and masculinize with the testosterone that's being added to their system.